Welcome to the Marketing Revolution podcast. This is the underground movement of savage marketers from all over the world. We are not Fortune 500 companies. We are real entrepreneurs with real businesses that have one major thing in mind: to set goals and devour them daily. Because we understand that everyone wants to eat, but only savage marketers are willing to do the hunt. Now let's get this revolution started. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Marketing Revolution podcast. This is your host, John Hiley, with co-host Angela Hiley. And today, we're about to bring you your marketing message.
Yes, we are.
What do you say, baby?
I say, hey.
Right. So, we're still on the subject of persuasion. And when I'm talking about persuasion, I'm not talking about the kind that everybody tries to put a bad label on. I'm talking about the kind that basically you have deployed on you day in and day out throughout your entire life. I mean, here's what you guys got to remember. Big companies study this kind of stuff. Now, if you're not I'm assuming that you're not a Fortune 500 company. And I'm assuming that you don't have multi millions of dollars to put into your advertisement just to study exactly what it would take to persuade people to purchase your services, right? Mm-hmm. One of the coolest things about it is if you are in an industry where there are big conglomerate, multi-million-dollar companies. The coolest thing about that is you can really become good at reading into their marketing, okay? Especially if they do a great job at it, because I do think there are some massive companies that do a piss-poor job with their marketing. But I'm talking about the ones that are out there doing an amazing job with their marketing. Maybe they got a face to their business. If you go back and look at some of the original people that have market share. Lily, stop. That's my miniature schnauzer in there shaking up her toy. I didn't mean to make you stop, girlie. You just gotta stop for a minute.
How dare you? You're so fucking rude.
Well, and I was thinking about that because a mentor of mine, Russell Brunson, once said that if you put a face behind your business, you 10x it, right? And I actually started thinking about that, and I started thinking about corporations like McDonald's, okay? And what face did they put behind their message? They put the most important face, an appealing face to the people that were dragging their parents there to buy them food, right?
I'm talking about that damn clown.
We're talking about Ronald McDonald, and if you don't like him, you had the Hamburglar, you had the Fry Guys.
I mean, those.
They created a little world of course you like the Fry Guys. You wanted to go in there and eat some fries when you were a little kid, so you could go see the Fry Guys.
That was a Hamburglar, right? There was the
Hamburglar,
yeah. I really liked him too.
Right.
Not
so
Ronald McDonald.
They quickly realized there's some kids that are scared shitless of clowns, and they had to develop some other type of characters, right?
Yeah.
But if you look at that, they put a face behind their business, that was a fictionary, but they told a story. I remember they had commercials that were developed as cartoons, and they had little skits and little stories. They knew their demographic. They knew who they were speaking to. They were literally running their ads on Cartoon Network. They were literally speaking to the children that were going to point to their parents and say, that's what I want. That's where I want to go, right? So, but in a sense, you get an opportunity if you're in an industry where there are big companies with big marketing bucks. You can actually kind of look at what they're doing, break it down, and you can actually, I believe, as a smaller business, you can make it better. I do believe that you can make your services better. And one of the things that I think that you can do that with is what we're going to be talking about today, and that is it's a persuasion law that is the law of authority. And, and I'm not talking about where you're managing your employees, or I'm not talking about the authority you have over other people. I'm talking about your market positioning. How are you an authority in your industry? And when I talk about market positioning is exactly what it sounds like. You're in a market, and how are you positioned through the eyes of your clients and customers? So obviously, when the little kids were going through McDonald's, they were positioned pretty good, and they actually had that authority because they captured the imagination and entertained the kids that brought them there. In the craziest way, they gained authority, right? And that's because the kid said, no, I want to go there because that's the coolest shit that I've ever seen. They're entertaining me. And ultimately, at the end of the day, a lot of times, people who have an authority in an industry are entertaining. You obviously don't want to be too boring, right?
No.
I mean, that's the last thing that you want inside of your marketing message, right? So I'll give you guys a little bit of a story here, something that I had recently read about. There was a real estate office where people would call in and they would ask for, whatever real estate service they needed, whether it was to sell a home or to purchase a home or to purchase a commercial property or to lease something, okay? Whatever it was, the secretary would answer and they would ask, well, I need to sell a home, so I want to speak to an agent. And the secretary would hand the phone over to him, well, let me transfer you to, John Doe or whatever. And they would transfer him over. Well, they actually switched the protocol. And in a sense, it's really hard to have authority in a marketplace if you are telling the people that you have the authority. Because now you kind of, you're battling with looking big-headed, and you're battling with, from the outside looking in, you not looking humble enough. So if I go out there and I tell a client and customer how great I am, it's not near as well if somebody else can do that for you. For instance, in this specific case, she was told when she answered the phone, and if somebody called in and said, hey, well, I need a commercial real estate agent, she would say, well, hey, let me transfer you over to John Doe. He has 23 years worth of experience. He's the greatest. So let me get you right over to him.
Yeah.
So immediately she created authority before that phone call got transferred over to John Doe, right? And they actually seen an increase of 20% in appointments, of people actually setting up appointments and coming in, and a 15% increase of them doing the deal with the real estate agent. Now, any of you guys in real estate know currently that a 15% increase of daily phone calls converting into clients and customers is insane. I mean, that's huge, okay? I mean, deals are very, very big in real estate, and an additional 15% of actually landing these big deals can add up to a ton of money. So I want you guys to begin to think about that for yourself. Like, what do you do in your marketplace, or how can you become an authority, like not only in your marketplace as being really good at what you do, but also can you show them that you're an authority in your actual industry? Well, she's my secretary, so she could easily do that. But, I mean, that's ideally what I want you guys to, and I'll kind of just break it down what I've done, okay? So I've created a lot of things that are byproducts of what I currently do. So, and in all honesty, I did this subconsciously early on. However, later on, when I began actually studying up on what we have done, I had realized that I created a bunch of byproducts of my current business. So what we done was we created a subscription website to teach people how to do dent removal, okay? That was me recording my repairs, typically during a slower season. Here in Ohio, when it's dead in the middle of winter, we get a little bit of downtime, and I spent all that downtime recording, editing, and creating a subscription website for people to buy into it and get the education. So that's a byproduct of my business, right? So and I didn't see in the future how that was going to position me as an authority until later on. So we went along our ways, and then we also had contracts, we had invoices, We had documents, we had marketing stuff, marketing tutorials. We could teach people how we got clients and customers through the door. All of that stuff was a byproduct of the current business that I was already in. So really, I just seen that, number one, there was a lack of education out there in the market. We are nearly the only one out there. I mean, there are some people that sell DVDs, and there's a little something here and there. But when we came in really strong with a couple years worth of content, knowing that we would always be a couple years ahead of everybody. And that being said, what that ended up doing in the future was something that I could actually put on my personal website for my clients and my customers here locally, that they could read, and especially when they read my bio, and basically they could see that I was an authority not only in my market, but I was also an authority in the industry in whole.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you another thing that we did, and I don't know, you guys can call this whatever you want to call it. If it was a marketing tactic. We actually created a Facebook group where all of us peers would get together and we would review each other on Google and Facebook and places like that. That was kind of cool, because now not only are your clients and customers scrolling through your feed and seeing a review from a happy client and customer, but they're also seeing reviews from people that are actually in your industry, from your peers. And I'm not talking about local, so we all live in different areas of the country and stuff like that. I got a lot of friends in our current industry, and we've legitimately all worked together. We've seen each other's work. We've worked around each other, and we had all the credibility to give each other very, very good reviews. And that's something that, maybe you guys can think about that. What do you have in your current business model that could be a byproduct of exactly what you do? I think there's a girl out there, I can't remember her name right off the top of my head, but she is in an industry where it requires a ton of legal contracts. And she had all of these contracts done very, very well, and she began getting the ones done in different states that needed to be done in certain states, and she began getting all of the contracts that she needed to line up, all over not only America, but she did it in Australia, and she did it I want to say in the UK as well. Mm-hmm. And now she actually offers a business where you can buy them contracts. Like if you're in that specific industry, you can go in there rather than have an attorney, which can be very expensive. I think you can go in there for like $1,000 and download every contract you need to do business in every single state and in several countries. And again,
is it like a membership that you buy that's like a lifetime membership? Is it something that's...
I want to say this one's a one-time fee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a one-time fee. But even a one-time fee at $1,000, you would find somebody who owns a subscription company that's usually a lot better than you're ever going to receive as like an average customer value. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying we got average customer values that exceed that, but if you go across the whole board from beginning to end and you calculate an average customer value, it's nowhere near $1,000. I mean, that's really good for a subscription website. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, subscription websites, if you look at places like lynda.com, which I highly recommend for tutorials, and actually now I got an app that I'll give you at the end of this that I highly recommend for educational tutorials. But specifically lynda.com, I want to say their structure is at about 190 some a year. And then if you purchase the upgrade, which gives you downloads and different work files and stuff like that, I think it goes up about an extra $100 per year. So if you could imagine an average customer value, somebody to be at $1,000 would have to be over 3.5 years as a lynda.com member. Mm-hmm. It's just not likely, on average. I'm not saying there's probably people that are lifetime members, and we have that as well. But on average, you get the looky-loos who are going to come in. They're going to do their thing.
Looky-loos?
Well,
I like that.
But it's, in all honesty, that's the world. That's the world that we live in.
I know.
In all honesty,
Let me just get in there and take a little peeky peek.
The world that we currently live in are a lot of folks that they get all worked up about something and they go gun-ho and they go out and they do it for months, maybe if they're lucky. maybe even a weekend, and then they quit. You know, it's and the thing about that is it's usually a habit. It's a habit that causes them. It's because they've created habits of coming home in the evening, like it is right now. It's 7:25 or 8:25 or something like that right now. I can't see the clock.
8:25.
So yeah, so it's 8:25 now, and we're sitting here recording a podcast after very busy days. Busy week last week. We had a big sale on a hammer that we sell, and we sold out on them in 12 hours, which was we really blew them out at an amazing deal, almost of an irresistible offer.
Yeah.
It's really what it takes nowadays if you really want to move something. But but we're sitting here in the evenings doing this because we've created a habit. We've got other podcasts. We've got other things that we've had to do. All week last week, we were sitting out here packing up hammers and shipping them all over, Actually, she was doing all the packing. I was kind of like hanging out and drinking beer over the weekend and watching.
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's okay, though.
Well, and speaking of authority in a market, this girl right here, years ago, I couldn't even imagine being part of a podcast. And if you ever heard her on our other podcast, maybe one of these days she'll warm up to you enough where she'll talk a lot.
Yeah, it's true.
But if you ever heard her on...
I'm just tired right now. I'm a little sleepy.
If you ever
I
heard
don't have
her...
my full peppiness.
Well, we have to get to drinking on this podcast sometime. That'll bring your peppiness back.
Yeah.
We'll take a couple of shots of tequila and she'll love you guys forever.
Nah, I'll just have a glass of wine. I'll be good. One or two.
Yeah. Well, she went from literally somebody who did not ever get out in the public eye. And in fact, she had dealt with anxiety and things like that about being in the public eye. And now she is, how many podcasts are we on?
We've been doing it for over a year now.
For over a year, she's been on the podcast, and they like her better than me. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, it would be pretty interesting to listen to like the first one and then listen to one now.
Yeah.
It'd be night and day, wouldn't it, with me?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what though, the very first one, what was interesting, I have 3 podcasts. One of the other podcasts, all the guys bailed, and it's a tool podcast in our industry about tools. All the other guys bailed, and me and her took over a podcast.
Well, I had some drinks the night before, and I'm like, oh, I'll go ahead and do it. It'll be no big deal. We'll have so much fun. And then the next day, I was like, John said something to me, and I'm like, oh, no. I totally forgot about that. Oh, my gosh. I was like so gung-ho, and he's like, you're going to do this, right? You're going to do this. And I'm like, yeah, I'll go ahead and do it. And
it was
it was nerve-wracking.
Yep. To date, it's the highest downloaded podcast that we ever had. And the podcast was going off the hook at the time. And it ended up just literally getting... I could go back and look, but I guarantee you now it's got a ton of downloads for a relatively small industry. I do know that immediately the next day we hit over 2,000 downloads. And it just kept going from there. So I knew that there was a great dynamic here to bring to the table. And we started
Everybody told me I did such a good job. And I was like, no, I did not. No, I did not. I felt like a bumbling fool or like a deer caught in headlights. But now I'm like, cool beans.
Yeah. So... but we do it every week. We actually do it live on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
The Facebook page, one of the pages that I manage, it's like just the coolest community of people.
It's a good time.
It's a good time. It's a good group of people.
Whoop it up.
A lot of the folks that are in there come to the events. They put live videos in there all the time. It's just active,
Yeah.
How many times you're on Facebook and you get into a community and there's like 100,000 members, but nobody's posting anything. Or the administrator is just posting maybe articles that are industry relevant and stuff like that. They get 2 or 3 comments. Not this group. I mean, this group is the equivalent of very, very active, lots of engagement. To begin with, when we revamped this group, I had the group for a long time, and I kind of let it go. It was called PDR Marketing. And then when we revamped it and we turned it into a podcasting group, our tactical podcast, we ended up revamping the vision of the group, and we knew that there had to be some dynamics in there to maintain the type of interaction that we wanted to see. And some of the things that we established right off the bat was there was no rules. And unless, there was 2 rules. You cannot talk about somebody's family or kids, or you cannot, was there one other rule, or was the one rule?
I think it was that. I think it was just like
Yeah.
family and kids were just a no-no.
Right. And I didn't want to be a monitor. I seen what happened to people inside of groups that try to become dictators, and they actually think that they're, I don't know, their head actually gets big, and they think that they've done something just because they've created a Facebook group. And I seen that, and I was like, forget that. I'm like, this has to be the people's group. And if I'm going to put it in the people's hands, it's kind of like a republic, or a democracy, or whatever you want to call it, where people, if there's an issue, there's polls in there, people vote on it. Mm-hmm. And that's how things get done. Everybody gets the chance to express themselves. Now, right off the bat, it was kind of scary having a wild, wild west type group, and it went off the hook at first. And I think we all kind of had a few speeches, and we're like, hey, look, guys, everybody out here and these other groups are probably banking on us failing because we don't, we're not going to monitor this. And that basically says that they think us allowing you to just be responsible adults means that you're going to fail. And we kind of got that message through everybody's head. Like, let's not make that our truth.
Yeah.
Or let's not make that the truth, right? So we're responsible adults. Let's live and let's conduct ourselves like that. Let's still be funny. Let's still have a good time.
Yeah.
Let's still pass out drunk in there, whatever. You know what I mean? But let's be responsible adults. Let's be respectful. And then above and beyond that, let's be an inspiration to people around us.
Yeah.
Instead of tearing down a community, let's build a community up. Mm-hmm. And the thing is just flourishing. And it just really makes me happy every time I get to go in there and see people interacting and see people not only interacting, we give away tools and we do all this stuff where we ask people to give away tips and we ask people to do before and after repairs, and we're getting so much exchange of knowledge in there that we're literally building, all of us are building each other up. And the truth of the matter is, man, that's a lot better than the opposite. I've seen the opposite before. It's nasty. I mean, it's very, very bad to be involved in a group of people that are all trying to take each other down. Mm-hmm. So, but to go back to my original message, I know we kind of went down a rabbit hole there, and there's going to be a lot of that in this podcast.
Always go down rabbit holes.
Right. But I just want you guys to think about that. Like, what can you do in your marketing that makes you an authority? And I will tell you one thing that makes you that today, that makes it easier than ever, is social proof and allowing your customers and your clients to leave you reviews, requesting the reviews. Put a system in place. Get a system in place that texts them automatically when you're finished with a job. We do them. I mean, I create them systems inside of our media company. And you literally want a system that is designed to create and build that momentum in front of you. So that way you continuously, as you're working day in and day out, you're doing what you do best. You're managing your team, you're out there working or whatever you do, but you also have a system in place that's designed to build that authority that you need to bring to the market to 100% dominate your market. Yes. So anyhow, guys, I'm going to go ahead and jump off of this podcast.
Was there something that you were supposed to... There was an app.
Oh, there is.
Yeah, remember?
It is actually called Udemy. So if you guys get a chance to check it out, you can nearly find every educational tutorial. I'll spell that for you here. It is Udemy. And some of them are good. Some of them are really basic. But, you can usually look through the reviews and try to figure out the type of person that's checking out the course. They usually give you a preview of the course. And most of the time when you get on there, it says like the course is normally $129, but today it's only $13 or $9.
Wow.
So most of the time, and I know what that is. I mean,
Yeah.
again, okay, so we're talking about a law of persuasion. You see, that just persuaded her to buy it.
No, it didn't persuade me. I was like, wow, that's a good deal.
Honestly, and it has a timer on it and everything like that. So it's scarce, it's time urgent. It's really a very, very smart setup.
Yeah.
But it's full-scale educational courses. I think I bought one from Gary Vaynerchuk and just a bunch of them. I mean, I kind of listen to it like Audible. So a lot of times you really don't have to be looking at the screen to understand on a lot of the courses. So most of the time I'm kind of just plugging it into my Bose, or I'm plugging it into my car and actually listening to it while I'm driving. Mm-hmm. So, all right, guys, hope you appreciate that little tip there. And as usual, we'll see you on the next one.
And remember, it's all about the hustle.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to the Marketing Revolution podcast. If you know somebody that needs this message, please share it with them. Please write us a 5-star review on iTunes or Stitcher. And remember, everybody wants to eat, but only savage marketers are willing to do the hunt. I look forward to seeing you on the next one.